Last night's Democratic response to what Donald Trump said, I found to be a little bit weak, but there was a strong response not long after, and that was new Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who happened to be on Rachel Maddow's show, and so she was able to live respond to Donald Trump's address immediately afterward, and here's what she said.
He has separated children from their families. He talked about what happened the day after Christmas. On the day of Christmas, a child died in ICE custody. The president should not be asking for more money to an agency that has systematically violated human rights. The president should be really defending why we are funding such an agency at all. The majority of the reason that people are undocumented is visa overstay. It's not because people are crossing a border illegally. It is because of visa overstay, which, mind you, he's talking about legal immigration. He's trying to restrict every form of legal immigration there is in the United States. He's fighting against family reunification. He's fighting against the diversity visa lottery. He's fighting against almost every way that people can actually legally enter this country, forcing them to become undocumented. And then he's trying to attack their undocumented status. This is systematic, it is wrong, and it is anti-American. And again, those women and children trying to come here with nothing but the shirts on their back to create an opportunity and to provide for this nation are acting more in an American tradition than this president is right now.
Damn, that is good.
I just got chills. I just got chills.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, this is a point aside from policy. It's incredible how much more articulate she is than the president of the United States. You know, someone who's much younger, obviously, someone who is not as experienced in the political world, but has a better grasp of what this country stands for, has a better grasp of how things really work with immigration, who has a better grasp of, you know, what the actual issues are in terms of how to fix our broken immigration system. I mean, really, no one else in the mainstream media mentions, and they should, this should be something repeated over and over again. Trump is not going after illegal immigration. What he's doing is trying to restrict legal immigration. These are people who are seeking asylum at the border. That is a form of seeking legal entry into the United States. So when he keeps referring to illegal aliens, or when he fear-mongers about undocumented immigrants in the United States, he is not actually talking about people who are trying to come in through the legal way of seeking asylum. And that is the issue that's happening at the border right now. People who are fleeing violence in their own countries to seek asylum and safety here in the United States. That's what's really happening. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is amazing and fantastic, and it feels good to see someone who's intelligent speak about this issue.
Yeah, exactly. And because of the time of her comments coming not long after Donald Trump's address, we were able to compare it almost directly to other modes of communication. I mean, obviously with Donald Trump, you had endless lies. We debunked them at the time. And then you had the Democratic response, which largely on the policy was fine. I mean, they didn't say much, of course. They didn't lay out necessarily exactly what they want to see done, but they did lay out a good case for what they did not want to see him do, which is fine. But with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, you not only have the right policies, you have an expression of the right values delivered in the right way. You have the trifecta. That's what we need to counter this. I don't think that it's ridiculous to say that the Democratic leadership, look, if they want to be behind the scenes and they want to be pulling the strings, obviously they're going to do that. They're the leadership, but they should push her forward as a messenger on this issue. Look, how mocked were those two leaders on the Senate and the House side last night? I think obviously optically it was kind of a disaster. There are other people who could pick up that mantle, who agree with you on stopping the wall, who want to see far more humane treatment of these people fleeing from violence in their home countries, and can deliver it in a way that expresses the values underlying the policies in a way that is human.
So last night when we did live coverage of both Trump's speech, we fact checked him obviously, we went to the response by Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi. While all of this was happening, I felt a little bad when we wrapped up our coverage because I was very critical of the optics in which, that were portrayed when Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer were speaking. And I was like, do I have this anti-establishment Democrat bias that's making me see things in a way that might not be accurate? So I immediately started listening to MSNBC after we wrapped our show because I wanted to hear what the pro-establishment cable news network had to say about their response. And sure enough, there were very similar criticisms, and I commend them for that because I know MSNBC shies away from criticizing establishment Democrats or the establishment in general. And look, their response was void of any passion, void of any emotion, right? And I think that in a case like this, it's important to show that this is an issue you care about, that you're compassionate toward asylum seekers at the border, but more importantly, that you're passionate about sharing the reality and the truth with the American people. And it was just such an awkward display. It made me feel a little uncomfortable watching it, even though the content of what they're saying wasn't necessarily wrong. It just felt like this rehearsed response that was void of any passion, and it was strange to see that. And then of course that was followed with Bernie Sanders, and Bernie Sanders was a person. Like that's the best way to describe it. He came at it with facts. He came at it with a genuine concern over what's going on right now, and he came at it with the reality of what Americans are really facing right now, what the real crises are right now. It's not women and children at the border seeking asylum. If you're really genuinely worried about a national security threat, you should be worried about what's happening with our climate. You should be concerned about what's happening with healthcare in the country. And so it's good to see real progressives come at this from the right angle, from the right perspective.
Yeah, and I just want to briefly point out, I mean, like I loved Bernie's remarks. It was good, and obviously he had more time. We had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, we did like a minute of her video, and he went on for longer than that, so he included a lot. I would say second for second though, of the 4 addresses we've now seen, I liked hers better, and this is gonna piss off all the people that wanna say that she's a lightweight. She was the only one not reading from a teleprompter.
Yeah, that's a good point.
She was just talking and she was expressing those things. Now, not to say that she's never thought about those things or spoken before. Obviously, you start to get into certain rhythms, we do the same thing. But she was just communicating based on questions that happened to be posed to her. All the rest, including Bernie, were reading prepared remarks.
Yeah, that's a great point. And there's nothing wrong with reading prepared remarks. I mean, politicians do it all the time. But I think that when you speak off the cuff and you do so passionately and with the facts, on your mind, that is way more effective in communicating the truth to the American people. I think that resonates more than reading a script.
Yeah, and in terms, I'm gonna read from some of my prepared graphics. In terms of some of the other potential messengers, I mean, including AOC on this issue, let's go to a tweet that she sent out later last night. She quotes from the 1924 Ku Klux Klan convention, a quote, "Build a wall of steel, a wall as high as heaven against immigrants." A great idea never really dies. And then says, "We know our history and we are determined not to repeat its darkest hour. America is a nation of immigrants. Without immigrants, we are not America." That is a strong expression of our values. And then I also liked Representative Omar, if we bring up her tweet, doing a bit of fact checking for Donald Trump with US immigrant apprehensions at the border with Mexico going back to the year 2000, showing that they are now at a 45-year low, down 75% from the year 2000. The facts don't lie, but Trump does. Not $1 for his vanity wall, hashtag Trump shutdown.
So can I just jump in on that for a second? Representative Omar is 100% correct in the statistics there. And that is based on what Border Patrol has reported. And the reason why it's important, some people might look at those numbers and they might think, well, nearly 400,000 immigrants trying to enter the country illegally is still a problem. And if you want to make that point, I have no problem with that, that's fine. I might disagree with you, but the reason why it's important to show that statistic and juxtapose that number to what apprehensions were like in earlier years, in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, we're not undergoing a crisis right now where there is a record number of people trying to enter the country illegally. That is just not the case. So the problem that we're having right now is that people are not even agreeing on the facts. Because look, immigration is broken. We do need to come up with solutions for immigration. We do need comprehensive immigration reform, but we can never get that if you can't agree on the foundation. And the foundation includes the facts. What is the real problem? What are the real numbers? How can we solve it?
Yeah.
Right? And that's just not where we're at right now.
Yeah, if you can look at that and think that we are in a national emergency, then fine. But we were at a national emergency that was more severe for literally every other year stretching back a half century.
Right.
A half century of which I'm not necessarily prepared to say, I don't know the numbers exactly. We were governed more by Republican presidents, but a lot of them were Republican presidential years. 2 of them were years governed by Donald Trump. So if we were in more of a national emergency during those 2 years, what was he doing during that time? Was he watching TV? Was he eating filet-o-fish? Why did he wait 2 years until the eve of a Democratic Congress before finally declaring the national emergency that you believe we've been in for at least a half century, if not longer?
Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.